In this episode, we take a look at the 3 upcoming heroes. We talk about who they are and the different playstyles that they may have. Go over the 3 heroes in their expected release order, which is Mac, who will likely release with the game's full launch, Stelle, who will likely release a few months after that, and then Jules, who should release a few months after Stelle. And with that out of the way, let's dive under the surface.
So, I don't know if I should start with it, but I made a video regarding all the Mac items in the game recently, so it's on my channel. You can look it up pretty easily, though I think Blake is going to put a little link in the description of this video. You know, in essence, Mac is an alchemist, so he's going to mostly rely on potions and like magic items to amplify his abilities. However, it doesn't really mean that he doesn't have access to weapons, because there are sort of 2 main avenues in terms of his, I'm not really sure how to put it, like the main 2 avenues in terms of his build. So you can actually go for weapons or simply like damage route, where you can either focus a bit on critical hits. So let's say you may use, I don't know, a magic carpet which scales whenever you crit, or you can try and go for more lifesteal approach and maybe use a runic double bow or mortar and pestle, which grants the weapon on the right lifesteal. And additionally, there are other weapons or sort of support items that can facilitate those types of builds. But I don't think that weapons are the thing that people are actually waiting for when thinking about Mac. I think the most important thing that people want to experiment with are the potions. So right now we have 8 potions in the game, and from what I have seen, there are more potions planned. However, I cannot say what effects those will have. But right now everybody is familiar with a frost potion, I think. But
A little too familiar.
yes. So frost potion, everybody knows, freezes half your board, which is pretty good. And there is another example of a really strong potion, I think, is energy potion, which I think can fit in any build actually, because after 4 seconds it grants you 4 seconds of haste on all of the items, and I think 4 seconds is at the silver tier, and then it goes 2 seconds up to 6 seconds at gold tier, and then 8 seconds at diamond tier. So that's a lot of hasting. And there are other, I would suppose that shield potion and sleeping potion are okay, but nothing really insane. And noxious potion, rainbow potion, and fire potion, bottled lightning right now are yes, they are also okay, but for example, noxious potion I think is useless unless you have something to do with this self-poisoning, as either you have enough healing to counteract it, or maybe in the future there will be cards that care if you are poisoned or not. Because for example, Dually has cards that care if you are burned or you are burning, I think that's how you should call it. So maybe Mac will have cards that will trigger some additional effects whenever you have poison on your person.
Yeah, I'd 100% bet on that. The playstyle I'm most excited for is, playstyle maybe isn't the right word, but his regen aspect of his character. I think that the regen is sort of super underutilized right now in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he has so many cool regen items that, grant him extra regen, or, if you do X, gain 2 regen or whatever. I'm really excited to see how viable that is in game and what kind of crazy builds you can use to stack up 1 million regen.
I agree. There are items which care for whenever you heal, or maybe whenever you burn, you gain regeneration, like with Terrible. I mean, not necessarily. You gain regeneration, and then whenever you gain regeneration, burn for set number of burn, So there are a couple of items which grant you regeneration, and besides Terrible, we have Satchel, for example, which can be stacked by buying potions, so you can increase your regeneration. There are a couple of items that simply grant you healing when you fulfill certain conditions, like Black Rose will charge itself whenever you poison, and whenever it goes off, it heals you, or incense heals you whenever you slow. And I don't remember what exactly was that build, but I recently actually used incense on my board, but I don't remember what else I had. Like, I think I had a skill that said, like, whenever I use ammo item, I slow, and I also had a skill like whenever you use a weapon, slow a smaller item, something like this. So in that situation, incense was actually usable.
It's one of those items I always see and want to use, but it never works for me.
Mhm.
So
Yes, but so we all know that there is this damage avenue with either crit chance or lifesteal. So that's one thing. There are potions. However, and on top of potions, there are also like poison build sort of and burn build, though we do not have that much support right now for those, so I cannot really say how it will end up. But there are things like slow build, which are sort of hinted by items that are in the game. For example, we have this femur that I think charges itself. Yes, whenever you slow, charge this item at gold tier by for 1 second. So I'm not 100% sure how usable this is going to be, but we have amber, which increases slow on other items. We have this incense that we just talked about, so you are going to heal whenever you slow. So I assume there are going to be other items that are going to allow for this type of build. And also we have like frost potion, yes. So, and on top of frost potion we have sapphire, so this gem increases the freezing duration. So I assume that there will be enough items to support various, let's say, focused CC builds, like slow build, freeze build, things like that. And one other thing that I think sort of conveys this idea of slow build are earrings. And earrings, I think, like, this is one of the items that I really want to test, because earrings say that whenever they go off, they slow one item for a couple of seconds. However, the passive effect is when you slow, permanently gain 2 max health.
oh, that's when you slow?
So
That seems a little crazy.
I think that we already have T-set, right? So it says that whenever you use a non-weapon, you gain 2 max health, right? So, I mean, that's usable. I have never really managed to make a T-set build, but I'm sure there is a way to do it. But especially since earrings are only a small item, I think it's easier to fit that into a slow build to, at least for a couple of days, to increase your health. And besides one thing that I also just realized, you may slow more often than simply on activation, because you can have skills that also slow. So I think earrings have potential to trigger much more often than T-set does.
Yeah, that's why I think it seems a little, maybe not busted, but it definitely seems like a pretty good item. I thought it was more like Walter Cooler or something, where it triggered when it, whenever it finished its 5-second cooldown or whatever. I didn't realize it was every time you slowed.
I think this is going to maybe not be a busted item, but I think people are going to fish for it whenever they play Mac.
Yeah, it seems like you're really gonna want it at least for a couple days, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So just to buff up, because Max seems like he's not going to have a lot of health, at least initial, like he's going to be more squishy, I would assume.
Probably, yeah. Maybe that's why he has access to so much regeneration. Yeah, I think we painted a sketch sort of, or painted a picture of what the Mac is all about. However, if you want a more in-depth analysis, then you can see my video, watch it and see all 44 items that are currently in the game, like Mac items.
So Stelle, she's the next hero after Max. They're probably releasing sometime first half of 2025, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
Her kind of whole vibe is she's a mechanic and she's an aeronaut, I guess is probably the word for it.
Yeah.
is flying, and anything to do with flying, she's involved in and tinkering with it. So when her full set's out, she'll probably have a lot of tools and flying vehicles. Right now, she only has what, like 14 items in the game, so it's not a huge pool to look at. But we did see her in the 2022 build of the game whenever Reynad did that initial sort of gameplay showcase. And she had this altitude mechanic, which I assume is different now. I don't know if you have any
You know what?
opinion.
I think it's completely removed. I don't think they went with it simply because like even at that time, Reynard said that he didn't like the math aspect of that mechanic. Like because there was this sort of like if you this item adds altitude, this item decreases altitude, and whenever there was also this lift off mechanic, and I think there was a lot of confusion with that. And at this point, I think Stelle is going to mostly focus on tools, properties, and vehicles, and all the interactions between those. And judging by the items that we have already seen, she's probably going to have a burn build because we have already a blowtorch present in the game. There was something else. There is a
Is the weather machine, I think,
yeah,
to do burn.
that was one I was thinking of. And besides, she also has a lot of shielding items in the game, so possibly a simply defensive build is going to be probable. And I think the people are most familiar with the wrench and the what's it called,
The hammer.
the hammer, exactly.
Yeah.
So two items that upgrade other items. And there aren't any other items in the game, at least I don't remember any, that have this sort of effect. Do you know any?
No, I don't. And I was going to say, I think that's unique to her. I wanted to showcase those two items because wrench upgrades a tool at the start of each day, and hammer, every time you level up, it'll upgrade the item to the left of it. I think it kind of like falls into her tinker aspect. Like she's always trying to improve things, always trying to build them up and make them better. I'm curious if this is sort of the extent of these sort of items, if there's not going to be a whole lot of them in her kit, or if there's going to be a lot of them, you know?
I don't think there should be a lot of them in her item pool, because if she has access to a lot of upgrading, then she's going to accelerate very quickly, while other characters are going to stay behind, because as we all know, the level up rewards with upgrades were removed. So right now the most reliable options to upgrade your items are level 6 and 11, and hammer and the wrench. So maybe the overall power level of her items is going to be a little lower, but she's going to be able to go to full diamond board more reliably. But that's a giant speculation on my part.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Stelle and Jules. They have like a handful of items, so you can't really, because they're obviously omitting the items probably with the craziest stuff on them that are most synergistic with their builds. So yeah, we just have what we have right now.
One thing that I can say for sure is there is going to be some sort of vehicle, archetype, let's call it. Because we already have propane tank, which hastes vehicles and it burns when you use vehicles. So, that's a sort of engine enabler, right? And we have sirens, which slow items for a couple of seconds. And then whenever you slow, you haste a vehicle for a couple of seconds. So this is also some sort of engine enabler if you have some slowing item, right? Simply put. One vehicle that we all know about is weather machine, which is really strong, but I think we can assume that there are going to be like planes, blimps, maybe even like helicopters, anything.
Yeah, I'm really interested how vehicle build's going to work, because other characters, I mean, like Vanessa has some vehicles, but there's not builds around vehicles. That's not really a thing right now.
Yeah, usually you put one large item on the board and you are good with that,
Yeah.
One last thing I would like to add regarding Stelle and this is more more about the game right now and like what items you should look for whenever you find Stelle, merchant, or whatever. Rivet gun is a sleeper item in my opinion, because its main effect, I think, that you really should care about is when you use the item to the right of this, charge the item to the left of this on silver and gold 1 second, and on diamond tier 2 seconds. So if you have a diamond rivet gun, whenever you use the item to the right of it, you're going to charge the item to the left of it by 2 seconds. I think this is going to enable a lot of silly combos, because if you have a, let's say, 3-second item like lighter and you haste it, so it's going to trigger every 1.5 seconds, or maybe there's going to be like a 2-second item. So whenever it's hasted, it's going to trigger every 1 second. And if you're going to have this item that triggers every 1 second, and this item charges another item for 2 seconds, that's like infinite combo, in my opinion.
As soon as you said Rivet Gun was a sleeper, when we were initially talking about it the other day, the first thing I thought is I want to put an Uzi right next to that. Like that would be such a good item. Or maybe if you get lucky, go to Mr. Moo and get the Tamu gun.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could just go crazy.
And then imagine like a port on the left of this rivet gun, or some other giant item, like, or maybe not really a giant item, but let's say a weather machine, which already has 3-second cooldown. So if you can accelerate it even more, you're going to freeze your opponent's board with this one simple trick. Whenever you see a rivet gun, be mindful, because it might actually help.
But she also has the multi-tool item, which isn't as good. It hastes another item for a couple seconds at the higher tiers, and it also slows an item. I find myself using that occasionally too in builds, but I don't think it's as good as the rivet gun for sure.
Yeah, multi-tool is probably like a early game item, and because it all either hastes or slows. I mean, it does both of those things, but like it has... it's sort of like connecting tissue between those two builds, because we assume that there's going to be some sort of slow build, slow archetype within this hero's item pool, and we know that hasting is simply good, you know, and there are a couple of items that care whenever you haste, or simply haste a specific type of item. So I think multi-tool is going to like fit this 10th slot on your board and wait for being replaced.
All right, let's move on over to the final hero that we have official confirmation of, Jules. She is a pink lady who has 4 arms, and she's a single mother. We know this. She runs her own store, her own restaurant that you may have visited in the bazaar already. So obviously she's a chef. A lot of her items are focused around food, which is like an actual archetype, like in the game, like a
subtype.
Subtype, yeah, subtype for an item. She only has 10 items in the game right now, so the least out of everybody, because she's probably coming out like mid 2025. She originally had this mechanic called Joy, which probably isn't even worth getting into, because we know that even if it's still in the game, it's not anything remotely close to what it was originally. People didn't really seem to vibe with it even back whenever they initially created it and showed it off in like 2022. So I don't know if you have anything to say about the Joy mechanic, but
I mean, I don't know. Like, people have mentioned stuff like Joy is good against very defensive builds, because shielding and regeneration don't really work against it. So I understand that there is a place for this simple approach to Joy. And well, okay, maybe we should actually explain what the Joy was. Joy was simply reverse damage. Instead of like going from 100 to 0%, you filled your opponent up. So you went from 0% to 100. And well, whenever you actually managed to fill them up fully, you won. You know, so that was simply reverse damage. But as I said, there were some sort of nuances to that. But right now, well, there aren't any mentions of Joy in the game on the website, so we cannot say if it will actually be present in the game whenever Jules comes out, because maybe she's got something new that we don't know about.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the Joy mechanic, and I hope that vibe is still in the game and done well. Like kind of like with the altitude mechanic too. Like I really like the uniqueness of it. I just hope they can pull something off. Many of the Jules items that are currently in the game are food, like curry, butter, black pepper. And I sort of get the idea that with what we have, there's a sort of small item food build because a lot of the food items either like haste or charge other food items or other small items. So it seems like there's some sort of build here where you put like a million small food items on the board and let them go crazy, maybe similar to Vanessa, like small item weapon build sort of thing.
I have this suspicion that small food items are going to be more like condiments, appetizers, those sort of things, like sides, and medium and large food items are going to be full dishes. And maybe those small items are going to somehow improve those bigger items, which are going to be those main engines, main pieces of your board. So maybe there's going to be this sort of building your, well, not necessarily dish, but like this vibe of cooking, maybe even. Like, I don't know if you catch my drift.
Are you saying like you have the pieces and you put them into the meal sort of thing?
Like we don't really have any, like there's only one medium item that is food right now, and it's pickled peppers, which I wouldn't call that a proper meal. Like, who eats whole jar of pickled peppers for a dinner?
Hey, we don't judge here.
I mean, yeah, if you're really into pickled peppers, you may do with them whatever you please. But like, what I'm getting at is we have black pepper, butter, cookies, curry, and ice cubes, I suppose, though. So those aren't meals. Those are like food products. So maybe those food products will enhance the proper meals, because we already know that there are going to be things like a alien burrito, or like Laurel's favorite, or there were some other items whenever Reynard was playing Jules. I don't remember all of them, but like those things. So maybe those bigger dishes will imagine like an item, like a dish item, maybe a stew or some sort of in this regard. So whenever you use a small item, do something like small food item, so you sort of like add another ingredient to the pot.
Or it's like, I don't know specifically what each item does, but like if you've got the alien burrito and then you have the butter, and let's say the butter haste food items or whatever, it's like you're dipping the burrito in butter and then taking a big bite.
Yes.
I love that.
This is like heart attack speed run, but you may do that.
Well, somebody, when Jules is out, somebody needs to try to make like our most popular builds. They need to make like dishes off of it.
Yeah, like that's actually pretty fun if you can like assemble like a bun, like a burger patty, maybe a ketchup, some pickles, lettuce, and if that can actually win, that would be so silly. Okay, but besides food, we also know that there are going to be some sort of tools in terms of like kitchen appliances. We have dishwasher, but we've seen a mini fridge during Bazaar number 37 gameplay. We've seen, I think there was something else, but like from the things that are in the game, there's also knife set, which is a weapon, but also a tool and a kitchen appliance, right? Or like a kitchen tool. So there must be some sort of weapon Jules archetype, because they wouldn't put an effect like when you use a weapon, deal 15 damage, right? If you didn't have any other weapons in your item pool. And also we have oven mitts, which are sort of insane, because when you burn shield for 10, when you burn haste an item for 2 seconds, right? That's a gold tier, but that scales a bit. So there must be some sort of burn archetype, there must be some sort of weapon archetype, there must be some sort of food archetype in general, that I would assume that food has some variance to it, variety.
Yeah, I assume her biggest thing is going to be food, and then there's tools and weapons, and then probably like things like friends and vehicles will probably be minimal in her overall
I mean,
pool.
We do have in Pig's item pool, we have this ice cream truck. So maybe something similar to that can be incorporated in her item pool, but that's speculation.
And maybe she can take it to the festival and get the same sort of benefits that ice cream truck does when you go.
Actually, we didn't really, take into account the fact that those upcoming heroes are going to have their own secret encounters.
I didn't really even think about it, honestly, until I just said that.
Yeah. I mean, okay, this is a upcoming under the surface video that you can wait for. But
There's also this is kind of part of what you're saying, not really part of the episode, but we've also got to account for that there's going to be a ton of new like interactions, like merchants and type things in the game. There's going to be a food merchant for Jules, which is going to be cool. It might be the grandma. She's not in the game yet, is she?
no, she's not. But I think you may have put your finger just on the thing. Okay, yeah. I think I agree with you. I think that's a good instinct.
So those are the 3 heroes that we know about so far that are going to be coming out. So let us know which hero you're most excited for, what builds you're going to be making in the future. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh, yes, please do. We'll see you on my channel on Monday. So please make sure to go over to my channel, Nonhead32, and leave a sub right there. And
and check out his Mac video too, because it's way more details on Mac than in that video than we have here.
Yeah. Bye.
See ya.